I see in chat, thank you, Jerry, for sharing that. I see in chat we have a couple of people saying, Yako developing introductions. Jordan is using Fathom AI for meeting notes, which has a wonderful feature for summarizing the discussion points and then the action items. So that's a great one. Paul uses ChatGPT, AI carousel for leads to scrape and Python scripts to scrape. And then using Dripify, Albert using Dripify, which is a plugin to LinkedIn for prospecting. So that's another great tool. Unfortunately, I won't be able to talk about it today. And then AirGen for administrative work, Fireflies for note-taking, and ChatGPT for preparing meetings. So Maxime, thank you for your participation today and for those comments. And then I love Bob Galino's comment here, LLMs for brainstorming ideas. And I'll tell you, I was talking with one of my clients just last week, and he was asking me to review his website. And I said, I'm happy to review your website. I'm happy to give you feedback. But with that, you're only getting thoughts from one person. I said, if you put it through ChatGPT or a similar large language model, you're going to get feedback from literally millions of people, millions of thoughts because of the way that these large language models work. So my theme today, and what you'll hear, I'll talk a lot about ChatGPT, is how do we continue to expand its use to become more effective and efficient in what we do. So let's move on from there to talking about the Sandler sales process. And again, I'm not selling anything today. I just want to ground you in where I'm coming from. And we have a 7-step sales process. It starts with bonding and rapport, which is all about building trust with your prospects and clients. Upfront contracts, I'll give an example at the very end as I play a video I recorded with an AI-based role play platform. But upfront contracts are to drive meetings to decisions and conclusions. But really in sales, winning and losing comes down to qualification for pain, budget, and decision making. And I'll talk a lot about pain today. And in Sandler, we don't present a proposal, what we call fulfillment, until we've done what we call real due diligence on pain, budget, and decision. Because when we come to making a proposal, we want to make sure that it addresses their pain within the budget parameters that they've identified, and it meets their decision-making criteria. And so we say, qualify stringently to close easily. And then the post-sale step is how do we make sure that there's a smooth transition from the sales process to then onboarding and delivering products and services. Unfortunately, I'll contrast this with the traditional salesperson today. And instead of following a process, in fact, if you ask salespeople, what is your sales process? Some of them have a hard time articulating even what it is. So they don't really have a process, and most of them have just learned by doing. So what do is they often start meetings by maybe talking about the weather, or talking about the football game, or talking about the World Club, something that has nothing to do with the issues at hand, nothing to do with the prospect or their business or their problems or their challenges. And then there's kind of an awkward pause when they stop talking about the weather, and now we have to talk about business. So we make that transition. And oftentimes I hear salespeople all the time saying, my agenda for this meeting is. The problem with that is that's all about you and your agenda and what you want to get done in the meeting. It's not necessarily about your prospect and their agenda and what they want to get out of the meeting. And then again, a traditional salesperson often will they'll do discovery, but I call it perfunctory discovery, because they typically ask a few leading questions that lead to some pain point, some problem or challenge that they might be able to help the prospect with. When they hear that pain, most salespeople get happy ears. And when I say happy ears, they're like, yes, there's pain that I can help resolve. And right then and there, they'd say, yeah, we help clients like you all the time. Now, let me tell you how we help them. And they jump straight to the solution, right? Our product can do this, our product can do that, feature, benefit. And they'll go on their soapbox for a half an hour. And at the end of that, let me ask anybody on the call, where does that conversation lead? You've talked for a half an hour, you've told them all about your product and your service, the features, the benefits, the other companies that you've helped and the benefits they've gotten. What's the next question from the prospect?
How much?
How much? Absolutely. Who was that?
Yeah, hey, sorry, this is Dale with Centaurus. I'm in transition. I'll be by computer momentarily.
Well, thank you, Dale. I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. You must be in sales yourself. It's How much? And now we're stuck, right? We've told them all about our solution. We've told them all about, who we help and why and how. And now they're asking us, how much does it cost? So it's hard to avoid getting into the pricing conversation before we know how much they're thinking of spending. What kind of budget do they maybe have? Are we even talking to the right decision maker? What is their decision-making process? Who are the competitors that they might be looking at? And so we share with them our pricing information, which at the end of the day is all they really wanted. And now they have enough information to say, I'll think it over. And I'll think it over means they're going to go off and talk to 2 or 3 or 4 other vendors. They're going to compare the information they get from you to them. They have all the information they need to say no to you and little engagement with you so that you can really determine if you have a good fit for them or not, and or how to position your product in the best way. So when we jump straight to solution, that means we've lost out on the ability to do qualification, or as I'll talk about today, real discovery vis-a-vis their pain, their budget, their decision-making processes. So a hard truth comes from that. Right up front, you've got to understand that prospects don't care about you, your company, your products, or your services. So why is that what most salespeople lead with? Really, prospects only care to the extent that you can help them resolve their problems and challenges. So I'm going to provide you with number one takeaway today. Think about a mindset shift. You can't effectively sell anything until you discover your prospect's needs. So at your first call, your first 2 calls, in some cases, maybe even your first 3 calls, it's not about what you want to sell. It's about what you need to learn to see if your product or service is a fit. And there's a say on the rule that goes along with this that says trusted advisors establish credibility by the questions they ask, not by what they pitch and tell. And I promise you, we're going to get to the AI segment of this, but I wanted to give you some context for why what I'm going to be talking about is so important. So with that, it's important to get into your customer's head. Right? We want to identify, number one, who is your target customer, right? What industries are they in? What's their title or their role? What are their responsibilities? What are their problems and challenges? What are their KPIs, right? Vis-a-vis those problems and challenges that you can help them solve. And then what are their buying characteristics, right? What's their buying motivation? Are they slow decision makers, fast decision makers, and so on? And AI can help us with all of this. So the first topic that we'll talk about is just define your ideal customer profile using ChatGPT. And again, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, isn't that marketing job? For a lot of us as small business owners, we might not have a marketing department. But as I said earlier, marketing is looking at the broad spectrum. I'm trying to define the ideal customer profile so I can go and have meaningful one-on-one conversations. So I put into ChatGPT a prompt, and you'll have access to this presentation. You can use these prompts pretty much as is. So you want to provide a brief description of your company and say who would be ideal customers for my products or services. So for the purposes of today, I typed in, I'm a managed services provider with expertise in cybersecurity. I have a staff of 20 people. Who would be ideal customers for my services? It's that easy. And what did ChatGPT come up with, word for word? First, it said, as a managed services provider with expertise in cybersecurity, your ideal customers are small to mid-sized organizations. And then it gives us 4 points that they need to have, right? They must comply with strict regulatory and security requirements. And ideal industries for companies that handle sensitive data include healthcare and financial services, legal and accounting firms, right? So they're also giving us the reasons why these industries might be important. But I know from teaching and training salespeople basically all of my career, but especially over the last 8 years, this can become a stopgap or a stopping point for a lot of people, right? They're thinking, how can I become a trusted advisor to companies in these industries if I know nothing about them? I've never worked in healthcare, or I've never worked at a legal or an accounting firm. How can I go in and have a meaningful conversation with them? And in Sandler, we call that head trash. We've got to get over that head trash. And through the series of prompts that I'm going to give you, it's an opportunity to learn enough to go in and start asking the right questions, because you're already an expert in your field, in your product or your service. It's just learning enough about their business and their industry to go in and ask the right questions related to what you can do for them. So number 2 point from ChatGPT, that the target companies for you are growing, but underserved, right? They often lack internal IT or security resources. So typical characteristics, perfect. Now we're narrowing down those people that we need to be contacting. 25 to 500 employees, limited or overwhelmed IT staff, growing attack surface, need 24/7 monitoring, compliance, and incident response, but they can't afford the enterprise level in-house security. And they also have a compelling reason to act. Maybe they had a recent cyber incident or a close call. Maybe they're getting pressure from their board or an investor or an auditor. Maybe they have a compliance deadline coming up or cyber insurance requirement, upcoming expansion, acquisition, or funding round. My point is, all of the people on this call are not MSPs, but I think you can start to see the power of using ChatGPT or another LLM to start to identify really in your mind, but also document your ideal customer profile. Because if you ever want to build your sales team, grow your sales team, this is the training that you have to provide them right up front. It's not about your product. It's about the customers you serve and the businesses they have and the problems you can help resolve. So these points that are coming out vis-a-vis their characteristics and their compelling reason to act form the basis for your early qualification questions. Again, in Sandler, we have a saying, go for no. We want to figure out all the reasons somebody's going to say no to us and then go and ask those questions. Because if we can overcome those objections early in the sales, we avoid those objections when we get to presenting our proposal. More importantly, we save time.
Please subscribe. For the full presentation, slides, and additional presentations, visit modernideasforbusiness.com.